Okay, so I think we're fairly good to get going on this session. I'm always really love to hear from the patient community and patients with lived experience, as I'm sure all of you are. And this session is the power of connection, strength in shared stories. The connection fuels resilience. We've heard a lot about resilience today. This panel highlights how sharing stories and peer support build belonging and strengthening advocacy. It's about turning personal experience into collective power for change. And I'm really honoured to bring our panellists up, and we'll have a great discussion. But I'd like to invite Ross Bragg from CLL Canada. He's an advocate who has shared his own cancer journey openly to inspire and support others, demonstrating the strength of lived experience. Thanks, Ross. So I'd also like to welcome Milica Kuzmanovska from Macedonia. She's the Vice President of Hemo-Onco. She emphasises the role of patient organisations as bridges between clinics, patients and institutions, pushing for systematic reform. And I'd also like to welcome our good friend from Australia, Deborah Henderson. She's an experienced advocate who has long championed patient support and networks, highlighting how shared stories create stronger, more resilient communities. I welcome you all. Yes, sir. So, Ross, I suppose to throw you in the deep end, we've invited you up. Would you like to tell us some of your story, or
Sure.
as a patient and then a patient advocate, maybe?
Hello, I'm Ross. I'm from Canada. So on the morning of my 40th birthday, I was given the diagnosis that I had CLL. It was a little bit of a shock. I went home and tried to have a good birthday party, surprise birthday party my wife had for me. I had two twins at the time that were almost going to turn 2. And so the next 3 months, I don't really remember much. Like, it was just pretty dark. I looked on the internet, did the Google thing that you're not supposed to, and I had about 3 years to live. So with the little kids, it was very tough. So it was a fog. And then eventually I did a little more research, and I found a forum with CLL, and I met Deb and Chris Dwyer, who was, he's one of the founders for CLL Canada that I'm in now. And just through the experiences that they talked about, I realized that, you know, I'm not gonna die. I might be able to see my kids grow up. And Deb had shared a lot of stories because she had gone through the same thing like a few years before. So just the experiences of that they shared with me, it just, you know, brought me out of that black fog, and I became myself again. And here I am almost 14 years later, and it's I coach my son in hockey. They're growing up, almost teenagers now. So having that was just invaluable. Sharing the experiences and seeing that I wasn't alone, that there's other people like me out there, it was amazing. So thank you very much, Deb. I'm who I am now today a lot because of your shared experience.
We only met for the first time last year. I just had this man run up to me and hug me, and I was like, oh, what's going on? No, but we pay it forward. You're paying it forward now to the next person who's diagnosed with a child, because it was a very unique experience.
Well done, and I'll be maybe bringing Christine in on this conversation, because one thing that I kind of picked up on what you said is that you brought the family into it, and getting back to the hockey, and we spoke about the balance, trying to get that balance right, and the advocacy. Milica, I've always watched your country and your advocacy, and I love what I see online and what you're trying to do, especially in a country that doesn't have a lot of access, but you're trying to drive policy change. Do you want to tell us about your journey?
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here and to present something our organization is doing for years. But the last 2 years we were very impactful and powerful, especially connecting patients, connecting stories, and pushing to the policymakers, the healthcare system, which is very challenging in our country. And I want you to understand me that I'm talking about a country which has very special conditions in terms of healthcare system, and the stories of patients are very different from any other story I have heard here. But we have successful stories, and the most important thing is the connection we made. We succeeded to connect the people and to make our organization to be like a family, a community, where patients can feel safe, when they can safely tell their stories and have the support of any kind. Psychological support. We do a lot of workshops. We do a lot of things involving patients. Actually, we made them feel they are very important and very valuable to us. And every patient can help another one with their own story, with their authentic story. We know the same diagnosis is different, is individual, but the stories can just bring the patients together. So we have now, I'm so proud to say that we have now very strong community, and we succeeded to change the policy in our country in terms of establishing, for the first time, I think, in our history, it was pronounced the HEMA-ONCO, titled after our organization name. HEMA-ONCO Cancer Plan for 2025, comprehensive plan for cancer care, but we are a little bit disappointed. It's not that all pink you see in with the pink glasses, but we are trying to push more and to build a strategy. We need a strategy, healthcare strategy, a long term for about 10 years. Because of the change of the Minister of Health for the last year, we've been on a meeting with 3 ministers of health, and the newly appointed one, we also met him and said some things we want to do. And we told him, please remember our faces, mine, Lydia's and Anna, because you're going to see us very often. It's not the beginning, but we will never stop. So please be prepared to make the changes patients in Macedonia needs. I have a lot to talk about, but in terms of time, maybe I can.
Yeah, I've loads of questions as well, and we'll bring. I'm hoping that we inspire the people in the audience as well. Deborah, it's actually a good segue that when Milica was talking about political awareness, which is something like it's just unbelievable. I know even in Ireland that you just have no understanding. You know that's so like I know I've watched your advocacy for many years and been inspired by it. You've also had to do this political awareness. And can you maybe tell me what way it has worked and what way you've maybe woken up the establishment? You know?
Well, we met online, like I did. In fact, we connected through the same forum, which was people diagnosed under 50. It was a Facebook group. And it was very much what we all needed, because we were in a very different situation to the average patient, in that we often either, there were pregnant women who'd just been diagnosed with CLL. We were being told that I probably had CLL when I was pregnant, and my daughter was 2 when I was diagnosed, and my sons were 5 and 7. And I was told with my markers I probably had 5 years. But this was 2011. We didn't even have ibrutinib. Now, in Australia, you think it's a high-income country, and like with Ireland, and this is how we connected, because Jan and I, the only trial that was available in Australia was for an over 65-year-old patient with CLL. Now, I had a British passport, and I ended up moving and leaving my children and moving to the UK after having chemotherapy and relapsing really early. To access venetoclax, which was then called ABT-199, and obinutuzumab. And it was a very powerful story, because ironically, venetoclax was actually a lot of the early work was done in Australia, and it was not available to Australian patients. So I lived in London for 7 months, got into undetectable minimum residual disease, and I had been so sick when I arrived in London, my life insurance paid out. So, you know, my disease was on the trajectory that my doctors had said, you know, you will fail chemo, you will, you know, once you fail chemo, you will have less than 2 years. And I was so, within 7 months, I had no detectable disease, but I had to stay on trial and I had to get back to my children. So I had to commute to London every month. Every 3 weeks, I was on a plane, giving a blood test, picking up drugs, going back to Australia. And I did that for a year and then another 18 months doing 3 monthly appointments. And I ended up getting very angry because my doctors knew the power of this drug and it was not available, not even in trials in Australia at the time. So I'm a former journalist. So I just became, I didn't hook into any, no one seemed to be listening. And I had worked in politics. So I went to the media and I connected with other patients and we told their stories. And, you know, the drug company nearly keeled over when they saw me on our national TV network holding my trial drug and saying, you know, this is $500 a day, but I'm here. And my friend in Sydney is not, because he had to have a bone marrow transplant and his children are growing up without a father. And the inequity made me really, really angry. So we did get the drug approved. We did get it funded. And they later told me that there were, in the first year, 490 patients had got this drug who would not have actually been able to access it, they thought, for at least 2 or 3 years. So it motivated me more to keep having a go at the politicians. So while patients have reached out to me over the years, I've mainly been focused on the political advocacy, and that's sort of never ending because there is always more to do.
Yeah, I've reached the real conclusion in the patient advocacy is that we say, oh, we'll go to our health service system to try and, or our health service to try and get things changed. But actually, the real change actually only comes with political awareness. And that's a really difficult one. And it's something that we should probably cover at some stage, maybe in the future, is how we raise that political awareness.
Maybe I could do a media training session with
Yeah,
you.
it'd be interesting. And actually, it's just I've a habit of thinking of something and then saying it out. So it hasn't been agreed or anything, but it's something I think that we should do, because we were a long time back in Ireland trying to get a meeting with our Minister for Health, and the only way that we could actually get it, and it's maybe its connection. We connected with other patient advocates, and when we connected with other patient advocates and the power of all their voices, and it wasn't just CLL, that's how we actually got a foot in the door. So, and I suppose I'll start with you, Ross. The connections that you've maybe made here. I know that you were in Barcelona last year, and how that maybe you can use the connections that you made to help like your own advocacy in Canada, and maybe like it's drug approval, because I know Canada and Ireland were fairly similar. We tend to kind of, the drugs seem to go through at the same timeline. Canada a little ahead of us that you get it approved. We don't seem to, that's, but the value in the connections that you've made and what you've learned from here, is there, how useful will that be to you and your organization?
Well, coming here and learning all of this stuff is just invaluable. It's and it opens my eye a lot to the inequalities that we have. Yeah. We are very fortunate to be right beside the United States, and access to all those clinical trials. Pushing towards getting drugs approved, we do a little bit of that. I could. Peter and Raymond know a little bit more about that than I do.
Well, I don't mean to put you on the spot on it. I know
new to the CLL Canada, but yeah, I think that it would probably be useful for Deb to have a little.
Well, you know what, I'm going to add to it, and it's kind of maybe to praise CLL Canada, because I know that I always in CLL Ireland wanted to get involved in that HTA process, which is the drug approval process, putting the patient voice, but it was really daunting on how we would do it. Mm-hmm. But I do remember one of the sessions at CLL Advocates Network many years ago, and it was CLL Canada had presented a white paper of trying to get a drug approved. And when I saw that, I was saying, well, we can actually replicate that. And that's why I was kind of thinking, so I saw a real connection on coming to these events.
Yeah.
Milica, I know that with drug access in your country is very, very difficult. And what response are you getting from politicians? Is there any commitments?
Yes, they are, but you know, you never get what you want really 100%. But we are determined to make some changes, and we already did. When I started my advocacy patient journey, I was not even aware what it is, what is the real meaning. But now, when the time is going on and year after year, so it is very important to be knowledgeable, to get education, to get everything. You need to be a successful patient advocate because you represent cancer patients. And actually, I live every story of every patient, I was told. So it's the same. Usually when my appearance at TV and media is they usually present me as a cancer patient, and I never said I'm not a cancer patient. You know, when people meet me in private life, they said, "Oh, we didn't know you are a cancer patient." I said, "I am not a cancer patient, but I have empathy for cancer patients, and that's the most important and thing that drives me all these years, and I will never stop." Our next goal will be venetoclax, because I think patients in Macedonia deserves to have the treatment as patients have in any other world country. Maybe not the low-income country, but I think maybe they even have better therapy options for patients in Macedonia. Generally, we have the generics, and it's a discussion about the second and the third line. Maybe I'm not competent to talk about this, but sometimes you have to be educated if you know what you want to achieve. And we will never stop, as we are small but very strong association, and we are well recognized now, especially the 2 last years, because we have a very strong voice and we were very loud. And don't accept something just to pass by. We want the real thing. We want the best for our patients, and every possibility, we use every possibility to go to media and to talk openly, because we find out that is the only solution, so someone can hear you. I want to present one example. Anna is the loudest in our organization. She's yes, and she's always talking about the problems of patients, because she's a breast cancer patient herself. And once she got a call from a person, I don't want to mention the name, but they told her that the Prime Minister said, "Please, I don't want to see this girl anymore on the TV. So please see what she wants and give her everything she is looking for." So I think maybe it's not the best way, but the useful and the most impactful way is to be on media and to talk openly for you know, from your background as a journalist. The most impactful way to do the things right.
Because they have to be re-elected.
Yeah.
They have to be re-elected in most countries, and they can't afford to have bad publicity.
Yeah. You know, I'd like to, because the sessions went so well this morning, not because I was on one of them, so that's it. There's not an ego here, but you know.
You're not giving us enough time, so we have a lot to talk about.
As I was going through your introductions, and the resilience comes back into it, and I'd like to kind of maybe bring Christine, if you had a question, when you're hearing their story, when you're hearing the patient advocate stories, and you're watching, have you any kind of advice for them to keep their resilience? Ross made a very good point about getting back to playing hockey with his children, you know, which I kind of, I kind of feel we had children and Deborah had children, we all have children, but in CLL families with having young children is try and keep that normality, you know. And I think actually just briefly, Ross, it sounds like he is getting that normality, but have you would like to add something or ask a question? And questions as well from everybody here.
I'm sure I have no advice. I think you are all incredibly strong, and I just would like to know what keeps you going in everyday life. What is your motivating factor?
For me, it's probably my kids. Since the beginning, like that was always what I was thinking. Will I see them grow up? Will I see them, graduate? Will they get married? So it really struck a chord when I talked to Deb, because she was going through it. She was just a little bit ahead of me in our journey, and it really helped a lot. It was like she took my hand and said, "Follow me. This is what we're gonna do." So just that support was amazing for me. So.
But someone had done that for me. So someone had done that for me, Lisa Mink, people who aren't even here anymore, sadly, had, Chris Dwyer, Brian, there are so many, the power of this community. Obviously, I had some very bad news last week in terms of my own health. To come here and hug 20 people who get it. Because you can't, unless you're living this, which is why thank you so much for your presentations. That was, really helpful, because it is a very unique community. We are very blessed to have Clan and to have, Nick and I met, 12 years ago in London. It's a beautiful, beautiful network of people, and welcome to our new members. I look forward to giving you hugs next year. But we're all, there is power in community. And that gives us growth. And next year, can we please have an optional golf session? Because to John's point about hobbies, golf is fantastic for CLL patients. We're outside, we're being active. I want an add-on golf session.
Has anyone got any questions? Because I think this is all about us. It's all connections and the community.
Thank you. I just want to commend all of you for sitting there today and sharing your stories. And I always get emotional when I do hear stories. That is why we tell stories, is to drive emotion, and emotion usually leads to action. But I would put out a call to action to the entire community. As I'm hearing about how you see your kids grow up, I get tearful, because when I go back and work in the region, it's only Ethiopia where we currently have a BTKI, the only country, and there's only 100 patients that have this. I'm saying, and I get almost tearful, and I have to swallow really hard, because my colleagues here from Tanzania can admit, we don't see our patients see their children grow up. They don't see the future. They are where you were at the point of diagnosis, and they don't have more than 3 or 5 years. So as we use this forum, maybe use our strength and our voices to speak to the community, to replicate what you've had, the success in your own countries, and also bring it where there isn't access yet. So we can, again, and I keep on saying this, but I see the other stories, so that we can change the dialogue and the narrative. And then in 3 or 4 years from now, I would love to see more of the African patients, or the middle income countries patients also represented, and saying how their lives transformed and changed. So I don't want to put shadow on that, but I want to say, use this power, use your voices, and do it beyond this group, and take it outside as well. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
Really good point. I'm glad to see other hands up.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. That's very impressive and strong. For me, myself, I'm the CML patient, and I don't have kids, so I got no one to hold my hand. But I need to hold someone's hands to encourage the people. I just like to ask and share, how do you, the most difficult time is the first diagnosed day, the first day when the patient learned that you have cancer. How do you encourage, or how do you help the person? I mean, suppose the patient walk to you with the most down, depressed, and the worst of the feeling. How will you talk to the person, encourage, and the message is, it's not that bad though, things will be better, but how would be?
For me, I would just tell them my story. That's what helped me the most, just hearing Deb. She didn't say it's to me that it's going to get better. She just said, this is what I've lived through. And like the other people, Chris, he just told his story. They didn't tell me the answer that I was going to live or I should do this. They just said, this is my story. And from that, I wasn't alone anymore. Like I wasn't the only person that had this. I see a whole bunch of other people that had it, and it was powerful enough for me to realize I can go on too. So I don't know if
Yeah, I don't, people don't find us on day one. That's the other thing, I was in a ball for 2 weeks, but the best advice that someone who'd had a different cancer said to me, and she was another mother, and she gave me a hug and she said, Deb, the only advice I can give you is don't mourn yourself too quickly. And it really has stuck with me because I'm going to die. My life is over. My children are going to grow up without their mother, which is always my biggest fear. I absolutely, that was why it was a very powerful group, and still is, of these people who'd been diagnosed under 50, because we had very unique challenges. We were much more like, we should have been with the ALL community. We were much more, we had fertility issues, and I was put in a group that the Leukemia Foundation put in, and I was with 70-year-old and 80-year-olds complaining about all their ailments, and I was getting angry. But I'm not going to live to see my children grow up. It's sort of, so this group was a special group. I think that line that was given to me, just if they find you that early, just breathe. Try not to read too much. I know that's the opposite of what we're saying, but breathe, reset, get some psychological support. I'm very, very open about the need for psychological support. My eldest son is now becoming a psychologist. My middle son is now becoming, well, he's just entered medicine and he wants to be a hematologist. And my daughter still wants to be a flying unicorn. But yeah.
Maybe from another perspective, from a perspective of a patient organization, it never happened so far that someone who was diagnosed came directly to us and looking for help. But we are the ones who are reaching the people actually, and it is very, very slow process, maybe calm process, just they need to talk to someone and to be safe, to hear that they will survive, they will be okay. We always give hope to patients. I'm doing those conversations. I'm not a psychologist, but I don't know how, but I'm managing to do it. Sometimes I'm talked more than an hour with people, and I know then I go to bed very satisfied because I know they feel better. Only with one conversation, only one conversation is very, very important for the people. And then when they take off the shell, no one at the moment wants to accept the diagnosis. And they are not ready, they are not prepared, they just have those black clouds and thoughts that they will die. But as time passes, a little bit, slow by slow, then they actually understand that the only help that is the most important for them is they are the only persons they can help the most to themselves. So we can just give the support, but the decision is yours. We even have doctors diagnosed. You know, the doctors knows everything about the diagnosis, and they are not open to talk. I just had a recent conversation with a doctor, and she said, sorry, I was supposed to call you earlier, but I didn't have a courage to do that. I don't want to accept. Even the disease was at the beginning, so she has a good prognosis, good chances to be okay. But you know, they need time. You need to have a very special approach to those patients.
Very good. Ross, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or putting you on the spot again, you know?
Yeah, I just think that the peer support is a great thing for everyone. It helps with the resilience, the psychological aspect. Having a community of people showing that you're not alone, I think that's a great thing.
Christina, we've only a minute left. I have another question, Lauren, and maybe Christina, if you have anything to add as well? No? Okay.
So I think it's not so much a question as a little bit of a call to action. Michael, at the beginning of the session, you spoke about, you know, policy and advocacy on that, and then we spoke about how patients have connected globally and that the power of that connection. And my call to action is on the back of what Kathy said, is that just, Deborah, as you stood and said, you know, my country isn't giving me this medication, I wonder if it's not time for the global community to stand up and say every patient in the world should have the access to these things, to decision makers, to pharmaceuticals. And we've seen that in cystic fibrosis, where the cystic fibrosis patients have said if one's getting it, everyone must get it. Like they've band together as patients and said, we are patients no matter where we come from, and we all want access. And I think that has been an amazing international thing, and the pressure on that. And we're seeing increased access. It's working. It's slow, and it's been arduous in some countries. But I do believe that, you know, the patient in Zimbabwe is not going to be able to fight that fight. They're not going to be able to fight that fight. So maybe it's beholden on us as an international community to start having those fights for patients that don't even know that they're not getting the treatment.
Well said. And this is what the CLL Charter is all about. It's all of us. We're all together. And you're right. So we have powerful, even in our community. So I try to get other advocates. I'm trying to find the next generation to mentor. And it's very difficult even in, you know, to try and find someone from our Indigenous communities. They obviously have prevalence of other cancers, but they're dying too quickly in our Indigenous communities. The gap in outcomes is so huge that we can't get those spokespeople there for the course. So yeah, anything I can do to help, I would be very, very pleased to do that.
Christina, you'd like to make a point?
Just a brief comment that I'm amazed at the range of emotions that I've heard today from your stories. I've heard anger about injustice and consolation, satisfaction with making people feel a little bit better, uncertainty, but motivation for living life because of the children. And I'm just amazed that you're at the strength of your shared stories. Thank you.
I think Anna down the back just wants to make a comment as well.
Please explain with the Prime Minister in details.
I will later on, but I wanted to add to what the last patient advocate said, and that is bringing the efforts together. I come from a middle income country, which is very difficult to explain. But we had two sessions with European Parliament this year. And what's interesting about our country is that we are in Central Europe together with the Serbian friends and some other ones. Even in Europe, they treat us like we are not part of the continent, and we will probably be better if we were in Africa, because we are treated like we don't belong. European Union is not even able to give access, equal access to all its members, and pushing the governments and pushing the leaders to bring this access to everyone is the most crucial thing. I'm out and I will always fight in our country. And I was just saying now that not just that, I went on public television and I said, this government and every other is making every cancer patient in Macedonia a criminal. Why? Because we smuggle drugs in our country. It's never about just the money. We have legislation that on paper is like European Union, but you cannot register a new drug. It's very difficult to register that new drug. Don't even get me starting on getting reimbursed and everything else. So my point is that the biggest impact that we as a community and the help that we need from the bigger players is support us when it matters, and we need to stop treating everybody depending on where they come. Michael has that famous saying that the access to treatment doesn't need to be determined from where you live.
Where you live shouldn't determine if you live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but most of us, especially the middle income and low income countries, we're dealing with this every day. It's excellent when we talk about resilience, about stories, but we also come from a country that people are scared to talk about the disease. Finding patient advocates that come to the stage and tell their story, it's a foreign thought in our country, just because people are ashamed that they're going to lose their jobs if the person that they work learns that they have, no matter if it's CLL. You cannot even explain to the employer that this is not and we do not have laws that protect the people. So it's a totally different game in terms of we support each other. We have safety nets because we also burn out. It's not easy to talk to patients every day, to explain the same things, and in the same time to fight the government for equity and access. So the outside community and the more fortunate, they need to step up their game. Thank you very much. This is why I'm loud.
Anna, just to let you know, an email came in from the Macedonian Prime Minister. He wants you to stay here.
He'll probably appoint you to something to shut you up.
Okay. we have another question from the back.
Yeah. Well, we are talking about African countries, East European countries, and other countries that they haven't got no access. Pardon? US, yeah. Yeah. So, but we are forgetting about Latin America. Latin America, I'm talking to my colleagues here, and they haven't got no access. They haven't got no help. I think we, as an association here, we should, or European Association, we should empower them to see how, to fight against the government, to get access. There's a lot of patients, as we were talking yesterday, that they are dying just because they don't know how to get to the government, or they don't know how to, having nobody telling them how to, fight for it. And it's sad, honestly, it's sad that Latin America, being such a huge country, we still, our patients are dying, and we know how, sometimes it's so easy in other countries to get access. So just please don't forget about Latin American countries.
No, absolutely. And just to make a point that we're also questions were coming in online, and one has come in from one of our network members, Duncan, representing Henzo Kenya, and I hope you're watching and you take note, Duncan, that we're making representation for your concerns that you raised. That there's a lot in it, so I can only kind of maybe just touch on a few points. But I think what's fantastic is that he's presenting the problems to us, and he has some suggestions questions as well. And I think that's actually what we need. And especially from Latin America and the global south and all this, that present the problems and also maybe tell us some of the solutions so that we can fight on your behalf and join, strengthen the network. But he wants more awareness campaigns, the need for partnerships, which is the connection is what we're talking about today. They use visuals and pamphlet brochures to share information, mostly in the hospitals or during umbrella body or grassroots meetings. It's from these meetings that we're able to reach out and, most importantly, break the yoke of stigma, which is the big cancer in itself. And we know that we've heard from some of the sessions that, I mean, to think that if you have cancer in some countries, that you have to keep it a secret. Like, how do you keep your illness a secret and the stigma? And we heard that some families maybe can isolate the cancer patients. So, like, we've big issues that we've only touched on slightly. He's saying that the data on CLL patients is very scanty. We don't know what's going on in your countries, and we're data driven. You know, we don't go on anecdotal evidence. We want the numbers. We want to know what's going on in your countries, and the surveys. That's where the surveys and the network are so important. Most patients are on a watch and wait status, and sometimes tracking them can be an arduous task, as they often have no scheduled medical appointments. Our doctors are ready to conduct the research, but they lack the necessary logistics support. So that's the work of IWCLL and ourselves as a network. We do need to push for change. I just want to thank Duncan for making that point, and also thank all of you for speaking up. You know, and I think that's what's good about hearing. Like, we're hearing mainly from the high-income countries, Macedonia as well, but then there's countries that are in such serious trouble, and we can make a difference as a network, working together. And I think that's probably. Does anyone else have anything else to say? Sorry, Felice.
Just a comment, a suggestion. In this discussion for me is very interesting because just a few minutes ago I said to Michael, we need to not talk about low and middle income country, high income country, and so. It's not money, our mission. Our mission is what we said before. We are patient, we are person, we are people, we are citizen, we have needs and we are rights to defend. And our global community is, our mission is this, to run, to stress our politicians, our system to address the problem of the access, to access everything. But the real problem is access. Then I suggest to don't talk about the money, the low and middle income country, the difference, because it's not difference. But the only unique is right and access and so and so.
Yeah, Raymond, sorry.
Well, I think the CLL Advocates Network is uniquely placed to influence is pharma.
Yeah.
To talk to because the network has good contacts with pharma. And what can pharma do to make their products available at lower prices, which will make it easier then for governments to, or through MAX, yes, thank you, which will make it easier for governments then to approve these medicines. And it's kind of along the lines that the suggestion about the cystic fibrosis, I think, to look at that example, because I don't see how we as a network can influence policy in Macedonia, let's say, or whatever country, but we have contacts, we have relationships with pharma, and that's our lever.
Just to add something to what you just said, we don't even have the pharma present in our country because we are a small market, and no one wants. Just like an example for one medicine, we were searching for 630 patients. They cannot live without that medicine, but no one from the pharma was willing to just bring the medicine to the people because it was too expensive, and no one, because of the regulations and terms, no one guaranteed the pharma company that they will take the whole content of the medicine. So what we can do, I don't know.
I think that, if I just add to it, I think that it's that data driven. I think as the network, and that's why I had mentioned CLL Canada in the early years, that collecting the data, that the network working together, because and the drug approval process, you need to push. You do. I know if you don't have pharma in your country,
First,
but
you have to have the pharma present at our market, and then to register, and it's a long process in our country to register a new medicine and drug.
Like a bugbear that I have is that the drug approval process is that they'll do it in one country and the country can just take its time, or the pharma company can take its time on putting in a submission. I think they're trying to change that in the European Union, and there's a new HTA process that 5 countries are doing it at the same time, including Ireland. But it doesn't solve the problem, because by the time that it goes into our health system for discussion, they again can take as long as they want to discuss it. But I certainly think Felice has made a really good point. That I do think, I know you're saying pharma, we have a situation, 1 or 2 pharma companies are not in Ireland, but we have the London representation in another country that we can discuss with. But we do need to push. I mean, with us having the UK and having Ireland, I mean, I don't understand why they would do drug approval in the UK. But don't do it at the same time in Ireland. So then we'll end up in a situation that drugs will be available in Northern Ireland and they won't be available in the Republic of Ireland, you know. And our Minister for Health, his advice is for patients to travel up north and move house to get access to the drugs. So we do. But I certainly think, I mean, the problems are not unique to our high-income countries. They're the same problems. But I know, and just going back to Canada, and I know that when I got involved in the HTA process of drug approval, we were actually able to get the data from Canada, data from the UK, the data from France on the survey results. They were getting lived experience of patients on these drugs, because we couldn't get Irish patients on the drugs. So it was all just kind of guesswork. When we were filling in the HTA, the patient experience, it was only the lived experience of living with CLL. But to be able to get the data of patients actually on the medications, and that was powerful, you know. And I think it was probably the first time. So Anna, sorry, you want to come back in? Your Prime Minister, he's in my ear. He said, keep
once again, it's not the pharma that is the issue in our country. We have enough pharma that is present that does. But with the legislation that we have, which is excellent on paper, but there is so administrative steps and backlashes along the way that most of the time they gave up and they don't want to deal with our country and to bring the drugs there. But on top of that, we're speaking about a country that doesn't have a cancer register. So in our country, nobody knows how many patients we have from any cancer disease. How we do the tenders every year is 30% more than the last year. That's the guideline for pharma. That's the guideline on how many cancer patients we have. Unless me and Milica and Lydia start going door to door and with a pen and paper, we, in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, in Macedonia, we are not going to know how many cancer patients we have. And everything that we are discussing on these sessions is data-driven. We don't have the data. It's that simple. And when you don't have the data, not the pharma, not the government, nobody knows. And because we have a saying in Macedonia, if they count us, they will need to provide the drugs. That's the issue. Because we are a country that says everybody is covered with health insurance and everything is free in our country. Yes, because you don't know how many patients you have. If you count the patients, you will realize that that's not the case.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
The newly appointed minister said he will solve this problem, because we have a national registry, but we don't have the overall number and the data from all the cancer patients, because the numbers from the private clinics are not included in the national registry. So that's the issue.
I really appreciate all them points being made, and I'd like to thank my 3 panelists. I think it's great that you really got good feedback and got maybe the questions I thought were really good from the audience. So thanks very much. And if you want to leave.